Welcome, low ego action heroes. This is Debbie Levitt from DeltaCX.com. We're a full service CX and UX agency and consultancy. Check us out. And welcome to episode 134, which I'm calling Stop Saying That CX Should Get a Seat at the Table. This is a Medium article that I wrote, and I'll be reading it, and then we'll turn it into a conversation with anybody who is here live. So that being said, let's just get a couple of quick things out of the way. Please remember you can subscribe to us here on YouTube. I followed through on my promise where the ad revenue will go to a charity. So far, I've made $4 or $3, and so I gave $50 to the Breast Cancer Society of Canada. And each month we will pick a different charity to give from this channel. So hello, Charlene. And you can also join Slack. Lots of stuff you can do with us. Quick thank you to all the people who are paid subscribers on the YouTube channel at the mid-level, low ego action hero level and higher. Excuse me. Anita, Chang, Darren, Irena, Jordan, Michelle, Nikki, Ralitza, Ray, Solomon, and Mix Betty, who is our first senior low ego action hero. So I've got my article queued up, and we're going to open that up. And as I go, please feel free to comment or disagree or ask questions or whatever feels good to you. So this should be, yep. So there we are. The article on Medium. And by the way, we have a new publication called R before D. If you would like to write for it, just click Write for R before D and submit it to us, and we will check it out and see if we want it in the publication. We are peer reviewing it so that it doesn't have some of the weirdness that you see around Medium. All right, so stop saying that CX should get a seat at the table. We keep telling ourselves that we have to evangelize CX and UX because it should get a seat at the table, a seat it doesn't seem to have, a seat it's been fighting for decades. I hear you. But I want to throw a new angle at you. CX is the table. That's right. CX is the table. Hashtag it. Hashtag CX is the table. Not a seat at it. Whether you call it CX, the customer experience, or UX, the user experience, it's all our company has. Our entire business lives and dies based on attracting and retaining customers, making them happy or at least satisfied with the product, services, and experiences that we offer. Hoping for that product market fit, hoping you like our version better than our competitors' versions. This means that our key departments sit at this table. Sales, marketing, engineering, product management, security, legal, etc. We must collaborate with them and they with each other. They should transform their processes and approaches towards customer centricity. Shift from what can we sell to these people to who are these people, what do they need, and how do we create something that exceeds their expectations? CX and UX is a department at our company with its own branch up to or organizational branch up to a C-level executive, but it's the table. To oversimplify, product roadmaps the table, engineering builds the table, marketing makes you aware of the table, sales sells you the table. The business is not the table, and we're all trying to get seats. Real target and potential customers, users, partners, everybody at each touch point, they're at the center. We research them, we build for them, we market to them. Anything other than that is likely to be a waste. Two more ideas to add here. One, UX maturity is customer centricity. When a company truly cares about customers and puts understanding them to build the right things the right ways first, we call that high maturity. Calling a company UX immature is not going to make us any friends. Let's measure how customer-centric a company is versus how mature they are. Number two, we need more people speaking the customer's languages. We hear a lot about how UX doesn't speak the business's language because UX doesn't bend over backwards to prioritize the business over the user. Sure, we can learn to speak business more, but what is really needed at companies for everybody, I mean everybody, is to speak the customer's languages. fluently. Let me quickly answer some questions that are coming in the chat room. Roman says, hello, do you have these recorded somewhere so I can rewatch it? Yes, they are all archived on the Delta CX YouTube channel. This one will be in live stream podcasts as episode 134. Solomon says, imagine finding out what problems people are facing before deciding how to solve them. Wild. I know. All right, continuing the article. Companies seem to think that customer centricity is optional. We can research what customers are trying to do and what they need and build for that. Or we can believe that CX is too time-consuming or expensive, build what people around the office think is a good idea, and give that guess a try. Customer centricity is optional at companies who think that CX is your call center and how well you're doing with NPS, Net Promoter Score. Improving customer support and trying to drive survey scores up is business-centric. I've watched these teams struggle to get their survey scores up while not wanting to invest time or money in better products and services. They just hope faster and nicer customer support will show that people are happier. Whether you invest time or money into being more customer-centric, there will be a customer experience, a user experience, a human experience, a consumer experience, whatever you want to call it. People will be offered your products, services, and experiences. You can architect and design those deliberately, informed by qualitative customer intelligence. Or you can run with guesses, assumptions, and overconfidence in believing that customers will be happy and loyal while getting minimally viable products and services. Customers define quality. No matter what a stakeholder, HIPPO, highest paid person's opinion, teammate, sprint goal, or sticky note workshop claims, your target and potential customers and users will decide the value and quality of your product. If internal teams love the product, but customers are meeting the 4 Horsemen of Bad Ux, my registered trademark, frustration, confusion, disappointment, and distraction, it won't matter that you built it fast. It won't matter if your team had fun and called themselves design thinkers. The only thing that matters is how users perceive your brand and offerings. But we asked users if they like this and would pay for this, and they said yes. Isn't an excuse. It's really part of root cause analysis and accountability. Now we're closer to knowing which poor data, poor decisions, or poor something else brought us to partial failure or total disaster. This is what Agile and Lean are truly about. They're not about how fast can we go and how little can we do. 10-year-old books about startups made you think those were the goals, even if your company isn't a startup. Agile and Lean are about understanding and ensuring what will create value and benefits for users, improving internal processes that create waste, replacing guesses with knowledge, replacing assumptions with research and testing, being proactive about identifying and mitigating the risk of offering people something that doesn't match them well. Hashtag CX is the table. Stop evangelizing for a seat at the table and start reminding everybody that the customer and user experience is the table. And scene. That is the article. So let's go back to me in the studio. Hello. And see if anybody has any questions, comments, disagreements, thoughts, stories. Everyone loves to hear your stories. Anything anybody wants to share? Scene. Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to do a short stream, if that's all we need to get our point across. And so while y'all think of some questions and comments, I'll let people know what's coming up on the show now that I have disconnected from my very short contract job, as that was not a fit at all. And I've been rescheduling like mad right up until my vacation in late November. So tomorrow will be office hours, Ask Me Anything at the usual time, 6:30 p.m. Italy. Wednesday will be the long-awaited micro lesson on knowledge design with Larry Marine. Usually I don't do streams on Thursdays. Reaction stream on Friday. I've got 2 weeks of stuff. Y'all been sending it in. Before I read you the November schedule, let's address Roman's question. Roman on LinkedIn says, how do you differentiate between UX and CX, and isn't the user also a customer? And Charlene says, this was a beautiful article. Thank you, Charlene. So Roman, this is one of those things like design thinking where everybody has a different definition and we're probably not going to agree on this. Nielsen Norman Group has a lovely article about the definition of UX and CX, and I mostly agree with it. Ultimately, in many ways, they are the same thing. There isn't really a difference to me between the user and the customer. To me, the user, the customer, the person, the human, the consumer, the partner, these are all people who our company has to interface with. To me, anybody who has a touch point with our company at any point for any reason, to me, I'm calling a customer. Some people argue with that and say, well, they're not customers if they didn't pay, or they're not customers. And I say, you know what? We have so many problems in the UX profession. I cannot get hung up on, are they customers, users, or humans? Yes, to everything. Let's stop fighting about it. So differentiating between UX and CX, I mostly don't. I think CX is a little bit more of an umbrella term than UX, especially from the perspective of many places where we work. Many places where we work think UX is artsy-fartsy hipsters making things pretty and making some Figma wireframes or click-through prototypes. Hey, we do so much more. You know, when we are brought in to do our user-centered design process, there's so much that we could be doing. Research, content strategy, information architecture. There's a lot more going on here than Figma. So I think that the customer experience, CX is a term that tends to have more respect right now, and UX is Figma jockeys making screens to many companies, but not all. So I prefer the CX term because UX has just kind of been compromised, and I don't think we're going to be able to change it back. That's my opinion. Wilson has a question. Why do you think companies like to bloat a software or product with features instead of actively trying to solve problems? And then Wilson's got another question. I'll take in a moment. Yeah, so I think companies tend to bloat with features or bloat with guesses because they think that's a great way to compete. They usually take a look at the competition and say, you know what? In order to compete against those people, we have to have more, or we have to be faster. Or we have to be faster, or both. And I think that these are not customer-centric. These are ideas that we have between fake agile, fake lean, all kinds of books about what startups do. They've made people think that the best way to serve your customers is to just keep rushing out guesses until you find a guess that works for you. Now, of course, I disagree with this, and I've got lots of articles that speak to this, and all these articles have also been turned into shows, so you can find the Medium article or the show for feature-oriented versus task-oriented. That's a good one there. And remember, if you're ever curious about a topic, remember that we've got over 400 videos on the Delta CX YouTube channel, and you just have to go to YouTube and write Delta CX, and then whatever the heck you're thinking of. Write task. You'll get so much stuff. Since we're so focused on tasks, you'll get lots of stuff there. You could put in feature. There's a couple of things there. So I think that companies tend to go for features because they tend to think idea first. What could we make for customers? Make this thing. Okay, make that a feature. But they're not really thinking in terms of the user's task. If we were thinking in terms of the user's task, then we would be looking at the insights and opportunities to solve for task steps that could be more efficient, tools, knowledge, and workaround that people shouldn't need to use, issues, concerns, and obstacles that we want to get out of their way. Well, this is what we're going to be talking about on Wednesday for Larry Marine, so make sure you're coming back for that. And then, of course, we can optimize this. This could also be represented by my little picture of the end-to-end customer journey. Whether you're making a journey map or a service blueprint or a task analysis, we have to look at that end-to-end journey. And very often, companies are just looking at the moments in which the customer is in their ecosystem and says, what can we build for these people? But when you take the entire task into consideration and you think about what people do before they're in your world and after they're in your world and what brings them to your world and what makes them leave your world and the decisions they make in all of this, now you're cooking with gas. And we're going to be talking about some of that on Wednesday. So Wilson's similar question is, why do we need to build fast for investors? So typically, so originally when a lot of these books were coming out that were lean this and that, like Lean Startup, which was 2011, this was just after the recession of 2008. And what was happening in startups was there was a big bubble and there was a lot of vaporware. Does everybody know that term? Vaporware is when a company promises features or a product and kind of never builds them. We've heard about some of these scams and schemes where people do Kickstarters and they give money to a company. Oh, thank you, Mohammed. Thank you for subscribing. Where people do Kickstarters and they sell, pre-sell something, and then it never exists. This is called vaporware. So a lot of these early 2000 and late 2000, like 2008 to 2012, a lot of the books that came out then was about how to go faster and faster and faster and just run with guesses so that you could show investors you're not vaporware. The idea was, especially if you look at lean startup and design sprints and things like that, the idea was we better come out with a minimally viable thing so that we can show that we can code software, build working software, and get it out there. And then investors can see, ooh, they really ship. Now, what happened in between, because I was in San Francisco at the time, I lived in San Francisco from I guess it was late 2010 until almost mid 2017, so about 7 years. So I was kind of there for all of this time. And what I ended up seeing was that at first it was like, oh my God, you have to find a crack, amazing development team, because it was hard to find good developers then, and people were nervous about outsourcing. They were scared to send work to India, Croatia, Serbia, Costa Rica. Now we don't even think twice about these things because there are so many talented, nice people there. But, 10 or so years ago, it was like, ooh, send it to India. That's so weird. They're far away. They're different. People had all these made up reasons to be afraid of these people. And we came up with words like offshore. So, well, I'm sure the word doesn't start there, but that was a word used a lot at the time, bugs. And so what happened was it used to be like, oh my God, you need developers. You need developers who can build working software and show that you ship. And this is a little bit of a reflection of Agile, because Agile tends to measure progress as working software. If you've coded something that functions, Agile says, hooray, you did it. You done it. However, when you start caring about people and their reactions to stuff, then you go, working software is not enough. Shipping code is not enough. And so what happened in the 2010s, especially in San Francisco, was I started hearing at all these startup events, a crack developer team is great, but they're easier to find now. What you really need is a good user experience. But books like Lean Startup kind of told you to guess at the user experience. They said, ask people questions and go out and do some guerrilla testing, but they really didn't tell you the right ways to do these things. So this is the medium-sized story of what was happening then and why you see so many things, especially in startups or in Agile or in engineering, that are like, just make sure you've got working software, and things related to the customer experience or customer satisfaction or things like that are so incredibly secondary. But again, while I was in Silicon Valley, it shifted and they said, no, get an amazing UX person who can help you with product market fit and make sure that this is a good product for your target customers. And that's when UX went wild in San Francisco. That's when everybody's salaries went off the charts. That's when there were more jobs than people. And that led to boot camps, who said, oh, we can fill that need. So you can see how this is a long bedtime story. This is also covered in part 1 of my Delta CX book for those of you who have the book. Wilson says, when you look up a company on LinkedIn and it looks like they only have one developer on their team, then does that mean they're outsourcing? Yeah, great question. Chances are their developers are probably not just contractors, but probably a contracted outside company, outsourced, contracted, partnered, whatever word you want to use. Because typically when somebody works for the company, like as a freelancer or direct contractor, they might put that job on LinkedIn and say, hey, I'm contracting at Wilson's company as a developer or QA person. But when there's only one developer at a company, and especially if that person looks like a manager or the CTO or a lead, chances are they're running a separate team somewhere else. But I mean, that team doesn't have to be somewhere else. It could be a team of Canadians in Canada. It could be a team of Serbians in Serbia. So it's not so much that it has to be somewhere else. Sometimes people have contracted us. Sometimes it's Delta CX behind the scenes. Sometimes it's other well-known CX and UX agencies in America. Sometimes they've brought in Accenture, Deloitte, Frog, Fjord, whoever it might be. And so when you're bringing in agencies or you're outsourcing to another company, yes, chances are those people did not put on their LinkedIn that they are working there. So that's not necessarily a bad thing. It just means that at this time, this company thought it was faster, more efficient, more cost-effective to just hire an existing team or agency or whatever. So I wouldn't say that's necessarily a bad thing. It really depends on how it's being planned and executed. It could be done well, it could be done poorly. Thanks, Wilson, for some cool questions. Hello, Elena. Anybody else have any thoughts or questions? Roman, how about you? Any other thoughts or questions? Otherwise, I'll tell you more about what's coming in November on the show because we have some really exciting new things I've just invented. Oops. So Monday the 1st, I'm going to be reading my new article, How to Make CX or UX Agile in 5 Easy Steps. They're not easy. 5 steps. Tuesday the 2nd will be Office Hours Ask Me Anything. All of these at their normal time, 6:30 p.m. Italy time. Friday the 5th, we didn't put reaction stream there. We put realities of UX work. Our third panel is going to be talking about what it's really like to work in UX. So that's November 5th. Monday, November 8th, I'm going to read my brand new article that I wrote this weekend, and it's called Fixing 2 Key Problems in CX and UX Education. I think I've just fixed UX education. I know that does not sound low ego at all, but I've been working on this for a few years now, and I had a bit of a light bulb moment this weekend. I don't have a light bulb graphic, but let's use these. I had a light bulb moment this weekend, and I think I've got an idea on how we really fix UX education, kill 2 birds with 1 stone, and I'm going to be putting that into use. Thanks, Roman. Tuesday, the 9th of November, Office Hours Ask Me Anything. Wednesday, November 10th, Slack Monthly Networking, available to anybody who joins our Slack workspace, which is completely free. We are not a membership-driven world here at Delta CX. We just want you to know more about CX and UX. And of course, if you want to hire us, we're happy to do that. But other than that, happy to give a lot of free help. Hello, Ralica. Just reading out some of the upcoming shows. So Wednesday the 10th, Slack Monthly Networking. We all jump on AirMeet for some video calls and, in my opinion, preferably not talk about UX and just get to know each other a little bit. We talk about UX 4 days a week here. Friday the 12th is Office Hours Ask Us Anything with Darren and Dr. Nick. We had moved that one when I was at that contracting job, but I think we'll keep it on that Friday, see how it feels. And so that'll be Friday the 12th instead of the usual Tuesday. But I really want to talk to you about November 15th. I want everybody to mark their calendars right now or add our Google Calendar to yours. deltacx.link/events will dump you in a Google Calendar that you can add to your Google Calendar, and you can see all of our upcoming events as they are scheduled. And real quickly there, don't forget that I'm teaching Axure live. So go to deltacx.link/ just Axure, actually. deltacx.link/Axure. Sign up for my core skills class, which will take you up through beginner and intermediate, and then the advanced classes. And they are heavily discounted. So don't forget to sign up for those. They're coming soon. Okay, Monday the 15th. I want everyone to mark their calendars for this. You know, we've done a lot of micro lessons related to research, and we're just now starting to get into one that's a little bit more about design, which will be Wednesday with Larry Marine. But I realized this weekend that what's wrong with a lot of UX education is qualified experts and instructors never just do a project where you can watch them and they can slow down their thinking and their process enough to think out loud and tell you what they are doing and why they're making different decisions and have you ask questions. And so so first on the 15th, I am going to, since I will have already read my article about this the week before, the 15th, I'm going to do a live design challenge. Now, we might grab them off one of those wacky websites that generate design challenges, but again, those rarely have context. So what we're going to do is we're going to make it an improvisational comedy, y'all. And basically, whenever I need to imagine that I have some sort of context or we've done pre-existing research and we've learned a thing, I'm going to ask you to improvise it. You're going to tell me what we learned in research, or you're going to tell me what context to go with, and I'm going to open up a blank Acture file and I'm going to show you how I would start designing something medium fidelity. I'm not an artist and we don't have a design system. And I'm going to show you how I would address something like this, whether it's a design challenge at an interview or it's real work at a real company. Where do I start when I've got this stuff? Roman says that would be awesome. Well, thank you. We're going to do it. So November 15th will be the first. I'll do another one in December, and then I'm going to start doing them every other week in 2022 because I want to make sure that people get a lot of opportunities to watch me work, have me think out loud and tell you why I'm doing what I'm doing, and to have you ask questions of my process, my thinking, my decisions, my workarounds, my approaches, all of that. So that is probably going to be more design than research. It's really hard to do live research where I'm thinking out loud unless it's analyzing research, which hopefully we'll do at some point. This will probably be more in the information architecture, interaction design, prototyping universe for now. Eileen says, design challenge Mad Libs. Pretty much. You know, I was looking the other day, where did we put these in Slack? I was looking the other day at some of the design challenge, what do you call it? Those generator sites. And those generator sites, you know, I'm not on drugs, but they made me feel like I was. And let me see if I can find some of them. They were really weird. Here was one of them. One site said, design the homepage of a marketing site for an app that likes your friends' social media posts for you. How lazy are you? To help, ready for the context and the target audience, disaster relief coordinators. Evidently, disaster relief coordinators need an app that will like their friends' social media posts for you. I guess they're just too busy coordinating disaster relief. It's already Mad Libs, y'all, but my goal is to take some of these, try to make them a little bit more realistic because some of these are pretty stupid. You know, a login dialogue for a maritime academy. Login is the most common paradigm in history at this point. What on earth is that? I know. So they're in the Slack channel. So basically, we'll start with some of these design generators, but if you've got something you want me to design, it's going to be improv. And the fun part about this is I'm going to be totally unprepared for anything you throw at me. And we're going to just make sure that we have a design challenge that has some sort of context. Now, of course, we won't have real research. And I always want to see designs done based on research, insights, and opportunities and things like that. So that's where we're going to have to improvise a little bit further and imagine that that research has been done and that there are things that we have learned about our customers and we're going to use them. So I'm going to create a page as we go of assumptions, which will be our fake context and fake research. And that will help keep us going, because otherwise, if you just say, design a page for disaster relief coordinators, we're going to have to pretend we learned some things about them. We're going to have to pretend that we did observational research and contextual inquiry with them and we learned stuff. because otherwise it's just, hey, Deb, design what you think is the prettiest, coolest thing for disaster relief coordinators. So, yes. Any other questions about today's topic, which was we should stop saying UX needs a seat at the table. We are the table. It's all the company has. All companies are the user experience. If your user experience sucks, you're going to have a hard time attracting and retaining customers. So stop saying we need a seat at the table. We are the table. Hashtag CX is the table. I didn't even make a graphic for that. I suck. I was too busy trying to make bitch you're the gatekeeper, but which I accidentally erased. Roman says, have you had much experience doing design writing? So we actually did an episode on this previously. So go to YouTube, look up Delta CX content, and you'll find we interviewed 2 content designers, and they can tell you much more about content design than I can. I've only done a little bit of UX writing and content strategy, so I usually tell people it is not my strength and it is better done by somebody else. Typically, content strategy and UX writing design and things like that, plus visual design, I usually say are not my strengths, and it's better to give that to somebody else. Not me. So no, I don't have a lot of personal experience there. Best to go check out our show on that one. Any other questions? Otherwise, we can certainly end early. This doesn't have to run a certain amount of time. Happy to take questions on this topic. Someone keeps sending me a calendar invite and I'm not getting it. Does anyone know why that would be? Yeah, I love these. What was the other one that came up with the disaster relief coordinators? The design generator came up with a multi-user dashboard for a blood sugar management app to help disaster relief coordinators. I don't know. This generator seemed obsessed with disaster relief coordinators. What can I tell you? We'll come up with something. Hey, any other thoughts or questions on CX? Why is everything an app? That's a good question. I don't believe that a lot of things should be apps. I think mobile responsive website is probably good enough. But yeah, apps for some reason are just still hot. But I love to not install them and uninstall them. All right, we might be out of questions for this particular topic, but I will see everybody hopefully tomorrow for our office hours Ask Me Anything. And I hope you've all marked your calendars for November 8th, where I will be talking about my new model for UX education, which in a way is based on what I was already doing, but I only just realized this weekend what that was and how it was missing from a course I took last week. I mean, I took a course last week. I got a 94 on their test. And I don't feel ready to do the work. So we got to fix that. So, so mark it for November 8th, and then November 16th will be the first live improvised design challenge, or as Eileen said, design challenge Mad Libs, with help from all of y'all to help me invent that we have real research data. All right, so why don't we wrap up? I'll play us out of here. Everybody have a great day or evening wherever you are. Wear masks, be safe. I'm still hearing about people getting COVID. This thing isn't over, so please continue to be careful. And I will catch everybody tomorrow. Be well. Thanks. Bye. Customer centricity as business intelligence. Visit deltacx.com to learn why we are